You're listening to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. Here, I share stories from real people navigating the adventure that I call adulting. Are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Hello, friends. Today, it's just you and me. This is a special wrap-up episode to end the year. It's the last episode of 2025, episode 178. That's crazy. It's really nuts that many episodes, 178 episodes. I can't even believe it, and I did it. I thought I was going to do 50 for perspective. And even though I had a plan when I started this and I did as much preparation before I started, things did not go as I thought they would this year. They were great in many, many ways. It just wasn't the way I expected. I want to start this by saying thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody in the audience and all of the guests who very generously have been a part of the show and shared their story. If you only hear one thing from this episode, that's the thing that I want you to take away from this. My true and profound, unbelievable gratitude for every single person who supported by listening, watching, and participating in this amazing year. I want to give a special shout out to somebody who might be one of my top fans. My running buddy, whose name is Pepe, has been a supporter of this project from the very beginning. And I just want to give him a real and thoughtful shout out. He has the opportunity to join me in person on an almost weekly basis because we run together. And he gives me feedback about the show, which I really appreciate. He has expressed gratitude recently that he can use the tools in the YouTube or the podcast player to slow down the audio when I'm jabbering away. And I am thankful for two things here. One, I'm thankful for the technology so that he can do that. And I do just want to tell Pepe that I am always working on slowing down. So I heard that feedback. I appreciate it. I'm grateful for you, and I will continue to work on it. Now I'm going to give you a teeny tiny peek behind the scenes of some of the things that may have happened during the year that you would have had no reason to know about, and it might be fun for you. The biggest and most public error that I made early on is that I misspelled one of my guest names on everything that went out related to the episode. And I still feel terrible about it, honestly. I still feel really, really bad. It was humbling, and I've tried my best to implement systems to prevent that from happening ever again to any other guests on the show because I try my personal darndest to get all that right. I see it as a sign of just basic respect to get people's information correct. So basically, that means that I try never to actually type anybody's name from scratch. And instead, I really like to copy and paste from where I'm getting their name so that I don't make the errors. I will say that unbelievably, I do still sometimes make mistakes. So that is the reality. One of the challenges that for me that came up in making this recap issue episode is that if you were to look at an org chart of my organization, you would see me in all of the spots. I do actually have a little org chart that I fleshed out in part of my planning, and I'm all of the things. I'm the founder of the media company, I'm the talent, I'm the bookkeeper, and I'm the cleaning lady. And this is not the first time I've recorded this recap because I recorded it and I realized that the focus of it was probably something that I'm very interested in, but that the audience might not be. Maybe I'm right about that and maybe I'm not. At the moment, I am very interested on an obsession level with deep thoughts and lots of pondering about the state of the media and entertainment industry, where podcasting fits in, where the tools are, where I fit, what the truth about the data, the analytics, reach, discovery, growth, fun things like that. And I can geek out on that to a very, very deep level, but I don't think that that actually is interesting to most of the audience. And so I recorded an episode that included some of the things that I'm really interested there. And then I thought about it overnight and I was like, you know what? I don't think they're going to care. So I'm back here to talk about the show and what might have gone on behind the scenes that will be more entertaining than you listening to me wax on about the difference between RSS deliverability and schema. Um, so another blooper that you might enjoy that you wouldn't have seen is that I was sending out a broken promotional link for months before anybody told me about this. So sharing podcast episode information and is not super user friendly. It's real, you have to know the podcast player that somebody uses, they have to have it installed, they have to know how to log in, all of those things. I use a single promotional link that takes people to a set of links so that you can get the Apple link there, the Spotify link there, Cast Magic, Pod Chaser, I think, and YouTube all in one place. iHeartMedia, they're all on one sheet. And it was around about August that somebody wrote me back and said, "Hey, do you know that your Apple Podcast link that you're sending out is not working?" Oh my goodness, you guys, I'm so thankful that that person told me. And then I checked it and realized it was a bad link and was really, really bummed out that I had been sending that out wrong right away, both good and bad, because I'm really thankful that they took the time to write me back, really thankful that I got to update it. And also, just a sort of a missed kind of thing. My download statistics bumped immediately. Apple Podcasts is the biggest audio podcast player in North America. And so I saw an immediate shift in downloads once I corrected the leak. Once I collected the link, such an error. Geez, onward. Why do I share that with you? Because if you're out there as a creator, me sharing my mistakes hopefully feels supportive because we all make them. No matter what we're going to do, there's never going to be an escape and a mistake-free environment. As the year progressed and my audience and my reach grew, I began to get some more feedback about the episodes. And that is so helpful because in the beginning, when there aren't very many watchers or listeners, it's harder to figure out what's going on and to get any feedback at all. Some of the feedback comes from the guests. I surveyed my guests pretty regularly to get their feedback. And they also are very good. We have a little bit of a relationship and it grows. They're good at coming back to me and sharing information with me. It's very helpful. One of my guests who I know a little bit in real life actually very much shared. She said, I didn't like this episode that you did. And this was my guest, Christina Sawa, if anybody else knows her. She's known for being a direct speaker. I was thankful for that feedback. And I share that because if ever there's anybody who's sitting out there thinking, no, do I think that Amy would want this feedback? Usually I do. There's one type of feedback that I can live without, and I'll talk about that. But this I really did appreciate. And I was thankful for it. I acknowledge it. I really was. I know that not every guest is a superstar guest. And early on, I had a decision to make that I could have edited out or chose not to publish episodes that I didn't feel were as strong as others. And I didn't do that because I don't know what is going to be supportive and feel good and be helpful to people in the audience. And there's a lot of variety in what people like and what they don't like and what they listen to and what they don't listen to. The top episodes, just so that if you guys are curious, it's different on different platforms, but the top audio episode for the year is one of the earlier episodes by Devin Adrian, and the top episode on YouTube is by my guest, Jane Epstein. They aren't the same, which is really interesting to me on different platforms. So there we go. But I was very thankful for that. And I have just made the decision to release the episodes, even when they're not maybe as strong as they could be, because they still do find an audience. That might change as I grow my production team to be able to make it a stronger final product for these episodes. One of the things that I tried this year that did not work is that in October, I tried traveling for a month and also continuing to produce and record episodes while I traveled. This was a very good experiment. I had a wonderful trip. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned that, yeah, it can be done. I definitely can do it. It wasn't perfect the way I did it this summer. If you watch some of the last episodes of the year on YouTube or the first episodes of 2026, they don't look as good as they do when I record in my home studio. So a lot of lessons learned there. Being an indie creator can be a little isolating. This year, I joined several networking groups. I have been a person that while I'm in business and even just overall, I like to join groups where I can socialize and do peer-to-peer connection. As a professional creative, as a photographer, and as a journalist, I have joined trade associations over the years. Some of the groups I joined were better than others this year. And in the first version of this that I recorded, I actually called out one that I do not think is a good group, but I'm not going to do it again. You can ask me, I tell people directly. Some of the groups that I joined, two of them specifically, are kind of like ghost towns once you get inside. So these are groups where the organizers took my money, sent me a welcome to the group membership, and here's your links to get in. And then once I got inside, a couple of things sort of happened. Sometimes it's a totally empty ghost town of a group, an empty Facebook group, an empty Slack channel, or other times when I get into a group, I've gotten into a group where these groups are dominated by either vendors or, in the case of guest matching services, I tried two guest matching services this year. Both of those groups were so heavily weighted and slanted, and the hosts are outnumbered by an enormous percentage. There's so many more people looking to be guests than there are hosts that take guests that it's tough to find one of those that feels like a really collaborative space. So I personally have an opinion that this is a symptom of a problem that for indie creators, because if you are looking for a peer group, a place to socialize with other creators, I have really, really had a hard time finding a good one. I do believe, as someone who's been a creator, a content creator for years and years, that it's a really wonderful thing. There's a need for people to have supportive and helpful communities. And that's something I'm willing to work on for myself and for independent creators overall in 2026. Am I the person to fix that problem? I don't know. But we're going to find out, because I've spent at least a full calendar year sort of banging my head up against a wall looking for something that I haven't found yet. And so I do believe it's important enough that it's worth my time to work on it. More from behind the scenes bloopers. I survey my guests. I mentioned that earlier. I got feedback from a guest that was very helpful. The guest surveys, when I send them out, they are anonymous. And I do that so that they can give me honest feedback, because the honest feedback is so important for me to be able to know what are the things that people are looking for, what are the things that they want to hear, what are the things that they don't. And so I appreciate praise, and I also appreciate criticism and constructive feedback. I have pretty thick skin when it comes to constructive criticism. So a guest reported, and I don't know who they are, so I cannot tell them directly, but they reported that they felt that during our interview that I was not showing interest in the topic and that I was cutting them off during the interview. Sometimes I do jump in to try and cut off a long-winded answer from a guest who may have started to veer off topic. That's never a popular thing from the guest experience, although some of them do appreciate it. I do that because I think it sometimes is better for the listening experience in the audience. Many of my guests are so far advanced from the audience in what they're talking about. They have a lot of experience. And so they can really go from 1 to 100 in telling the story very quickly, and they might have a lot to say. And so sometimes, as the interviewer, I will try and jump in and say, hey, can we come back to sort of a spot where I think the audience is? Sometimes it works better than others. Definitely, I can improve my technique there. Some guests are receptive to it and thankful for it because they know that they ramble, but not always. And it's something that there's definitely room for improvement. Never would it be for my intention to seem like I am disinterested or to give a guest the impression that I'm disinterested. I invite them on because I am interested in what they're talking about. But I'm not saying I don't agree with the feedback. If this guest felt like that's the message that I was giving them or the impression during the interview, that's the truth. That's the end of that. And so I'm thankful to that because it gives me a spot to be able to get better and work more on that. And also, I'm very apologetic because I would never want that to have been a guest experience. And so I'm thankful to be able to work on it. That's one of the places working on improvement. And so I'm sharing that with you there. Okay. One of the other parts of feedback that I've gotten this year is that as my reach has grown, I get more rando feedback from bots and creeps on the social media platform. And earlier I mentioned, I was like, that's a feedback that I don't particularly want. I ignore it. I have pretty thick skin, but it is kind of obnoxious. People who pop in and say inappropriate things, or I haven't gotten any truly, truly hateful things. I get a very large amount of people who would love to help me. They're sort of ads. It's like, let us help you grow your reach. Those are harmless. I just delete them. So, those are some of the things that have happened behind the scenes in the last year. It's been a fun ride. I thought I was going to release 50 episodes. I thought I'd maybe get a couple hundred guest requests. We're over 1,200 requests to be guests on a show. I've released 178 episodes. There are already episodes recorded and ready to edit for 2026. I am looking to level up at this point. I am at critical mass for how much I can do myself. In fact, when people find out that I was all the things this year, they are a little bit amazed that I was able to pull it off. Me too. So I am beginning to build my production team. If you are interested and want to work with me, give me a shout out. I'd love to talk to you about it. And that's it. That's a wrap on 2025. I'll be back in January 2026. Thank you for listening today. I hope that you enjoy the show. And before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Listen to more episodes. That'd be great. Again, please write a review and tell your friends about the show. That truly is a great help for getting the show in front of new people. Okay, but more fun for you yourself, head over to imperfectadulting.com and join the email community. You'll get some free stuff right away, and that way you'll begin to get the emails about the podcast. This includes the links for the special offers from the guests, and it's the only way to get that. Also, if you aren't in the mood to listen, I actually include an article directly in those emails. Whee! Now, if you love this and you crave more time with me, Amy, as a coach, a mentor, or just adultier adult, numero uno, check out The Village. If you have a story you want to share with the listeners, I'd love to hear from you. I have an open application. Just let me know you want it. And that's a wrap for today. Until next time, remember, the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now, I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that may not mean that you're lost. It may just mean that you're on your way. This is Amy Stone, signing off. The Imperfect Adulting podcast is created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy does not intend or hold herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level.